Welcome to The Outlet, an OTG production.
Welcome to the NBA Outlet, presented by OTGBasketball.com. Thanks for listening, whether it's on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at OTGBasketball. The usual suspects, Nick, Faye, and John Aiello, are back to join me, Parth Goradia, as we recap the NBA week, talk Spurs Warriors, pick some potential NBA playoff upsets, and also make some picks for games of the week this week. How are you doing, guys?
Doing pretty well, man. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it. It's excited to get this over with so I can watch my Syracuse Orange advance to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, it's been a good little weekend. A lot of basketball with the NBA and March Madness. So,
hey, John, where were you last week, man? We missed you. We had Mike, which was great. Shout out to Mike. He's awesome. But what were you doing last weekend?
Last week it was my birthday, March 11th, at Friday. So I had like a family dinner, kind of did like random family stuff all day on Sunday. And so that's pretty much about it. Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy. What about this past NBA week? Did something stick out to you?
Yeah, so my weekly recap from this past week. I honestly didn't watch much NBA this week. I think with all the college and everything like that, I was kind of focused on that. But I was keeping up with some stories and checking scores and things like that. And the one thing that stuck out to me, I was trying to steer away from the Knicks topics because I feel like I always do Knicks stuff. But Melo coming out, there was a story. Melo didn't actually say he would consider waiving his no trade clause. It's more of like people within the Knicks organization coming out saying that they think Melo would waive his no trade clause if the team doesn't significantly upgrade its roster from where it's currently at. And I think it makes a ton of sense for both sides to part ways. The Knicks have a young star in Porzingis, and Melo is still a great player, but he's on the decline. He's not going to be really getting any better at this point. So you got to look for greener pastures, I think, if you're the Knicks. So I just thought it was interesting that story came out because there's been a lot of other stories, coming out recently about how like Phil Jackson wanted to, suppose he wanted to coach half the games or something. And then Melo was like not having it. I guess he was like, man, I don't know what he said exactly. I just know Melo wasn't having it. And then I just read a story on Dime Sports. Someone asked Melo about like where he's going to be playing next year, if he'll be in New York next year. And he said, shit, I don't know. That's for the media to speculate or something. So not exactly him. It's kind of like he's starting to change his narrative about him being in New York. Before it was like, I'm going to be here. I love New York. And now I think he's getting real frustrated. And we saw him after the Golden State game. I think he said he made some comments like how his team wasn't playing hard. And by the time they started playing hard, it was already too late. They were down 30. And there's a picture I saw of the whole team in the huddle, and Melo was at the end of the bench just sitting there. And, fans are looking at him, and he's got the towel over his head. So you can tell he's really frustrated with the situation.
yeah, I definitely can see it as well. He's definitely frustrated, especially after the All-Star break because the Knicks haven't been doing as well. I think it definitely makes sense for both parties to split up. For the Knicks, they can build around Porzingis, get some nice assets, some young players. And for Melo, he can go to a contender and try to get a ring before he's out of his prime.
It's nice because I know he has the no trade clause, but this summer with everyone having cap space, a lot of teams can absorb a deal like Melo. I don't know if those teams would want to, but it's a possibility. Like it works out financially it works out that way. So that's a possibility. John, do you think would you want, as a Knicks fan, do you want Melo gone?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I was, growing up in Syracuse for 7 years. I'm a big Syracuse fan, so I loved Melo ever since he was with Syracuse. And I've been a big fan of him, and I've been in his corner for the most part throughout his career, although I understand why people scrutinize him and things like that. But I want him to be on a good team, and I want the Knicks to be a good team. I don't think they can be a good team until they get rid of him, because I think, they won't be able to realize their full potential with him on the team because they're going to be in this constant middle ground of, with him on the roster and his salary, taking up a big chunk of the salary cap. I think they'll have to get rid of him, and it'll kind of prevent them from, they need to get some young assets and grow younger. So I would like to see them get rid of him. And I think the thing that kind of plays in the favor of New York is because this is such, obviously the salary cap is increasing, like you said. So teams are, more willing to take on guys for bigger deals. But this free agent class isn't that great. You're going to assume that, it's assuming KD's going to stay in OKC and LeBron's going to stay in Cleveland. So past those guys, there's not a lot of guys that I think would, that are better than Melo. So I think teams would be willing to take on his contract. I think it's for 2 more years and then a player option for a 3rd year. So I think it could make sense for a team to trade for him.
Yeah, that's a great point because I think there'd be plenty of teams interested in Melo. But what do you think Melo will get you back in a trade?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're the Knicks, if you can get a solid young role player, in a future 1st-round pick, maybe a couple of good young players in a future 1st-round pick, I think honestly I would be okay with that because at this point it's like, I just don't. You can't really be stingy. I feel like it's not like it's like I think the longer you wait, the less desirable he's going to look, especially right now in the summer. I think it makes the most sense to trade him, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point because the longer they wait, the less leverage they'll have, and
Yeah.
I feel like a solid young player that has a lot of potential, has potential going forward, and at least a decent 1st-round pick. I think it'll take hopefully something more than a late pick in the 1st round, something maybe mid or maybe even lottery from another team.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some teams that would be, good fit. I feel like all the teams that would be great fits aren't really contenders. Like I think he'd be like Phoenix has a lot of assets. Like all these teams have great assets. Boston, I think, would be a great. They have a bunch of 1st-round picks. If you could get, I don't know, maybe like Avery Bradley and I don't know someone else. Now, I don't think they would give up Jay Crowder, Avery, and a 1st-round pick for Melo. But if you can get Avery Bradley and like one of their top picks this year, I think the Knicks should do that. Something like that, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and they got some RJ Hunter, I think, they got some young wings on the bench too. They got plenty of bigs over there too, so they could always throw one of those in the trade.
Yeah, the Celtics have a lot of tradable assets. But John, I know you mentioned that the trade partners are probably not contenders. Well, neither are the Knicks. They're 28-42, 21.5 games out of 1st place in the East, 13th in the playoff hunt.
Right.
Thoughts?
So
just give me your thoughts on just those numbers.
Well, yeah, it's pretty upsetting, especially when we started off the year good, but I think I was texting you, Parth, and I said stuff like, "I'm just waiting for the bottom to fall out." Like, there's no way. Like, I think I said some stuff like that because like they were winning games, but it was like weird how we were winning games. Like we looked bad, but somehow we were winning. And then once Derek Fisher was fired, I was like, "Oh, I know we're done." Because Rambis, I'm not gonna say Rambis is a bad coach because it's tough to judge a guy off one stint. And Minnesota hasn't been good since, so it's hard to say. It's like,
It was his fault.
Yeah. But it's also like I think there's just a lot of drama in New York, and I think New York just needs to start from scratch. I would love to see him get rid of Melo, go young, and get a really good coach, like maybe like Scott Brooks or Thibodeau or I don't know, just someone with some experience who's kind of shown he can coach in the NBA, who can give Knicks fans some optimism for the future.
Because this playoff race right now in the East is really tight, and I wanted to get into my weekly recap and just pose a question for you guys. Right now, seeds 3 through 6 are separated by 1.5 games. So right now we have the Hawks in 3rd, Miami in 4th, Boston in 5th, and Charlotte in 6th. And I assume that majority of these teams want either to get up to the 3rd seed for home court advantage or drop down to the 6th spot just to avoid Cleveland in the 2nd round. Now, Miami may not feel that way after they smacked them around yesterday, but I think majority of these teams want to avoid Cleveland in the 2nd round. So who do you think ends up with that 3rd seed between those 4 teams? Or does another team surprise everyone else and move up? Because the Pacers are in 7th and they're only, let's see, 4.5 games out of the 3rd spot. So
4 games in the loss column, yeah.
So your thoughts?
I like where like the top 2 teams now, the Hawks and the Heat. The Celtics are good, but the thing with Boston is Isaiah Thomas is a great scorer, but it's just like I don't think he's a guy you can rely on at the end of games to like. He's really good. I just don't know if he's a go-to guy with like 2 minutes left in the game, which I think hurts them. The Hornets have been playing well above. They've been overachieving all year. I like Kemba Walker a lot, but the Heat, like especially if Chris Bosh comes back and they can kind of smoothly ease him into what they've been doing with their offense, I think Miami's gonna be really dangerous. And the Hawks have the experience from last year, and they have a lot of veteran guys. And it seems like Schroeder's been, from what I've seen, the Hawks, they've been playing Schroeder more, and I think that seemed to like propel them on this run they've been going on since like I guess for the past month or so. So I like both those teams.
Personally, I like the Heat going forward. I don't Boston, like you said, John. I don't know if they have that go-to scorer in the fourth quarter. I know Crowder's banged up; he's out for a while. Atlanta has some ugly losses against some bad teams, so I just don't have a lot of confidence in them. I feel like Miami, with the addition of Joe Johnson, the possibility of Chris Bosh coming back, they can definitely grab that 3 seed.
Yeah, I think I'm also, the full disclaimer, I'm a total Heat homer, but I think they're the team that could possibly be the sleeper X Factor team in terms of making the finals in the East. Just because they have the pedigree there, they have former champions, they have Eric Spoelstra as a championship level coach. They have it all there. It's just, will it happen for them? Will they have enough going forward? And I know you mentioned the addition of Chris Bosh. I don't know how seamless that addition back into the lineup would be. You'd think putting an all-star back in there would be an easy fix, right? But I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's that simple. I'm sure. I mean, Spoelstra's a good coach. He adjusts, so I'm sure he could. But the Hawks have been playing. The Hawks have been playing really well, and I haven't caught too many Hawks games since the All-Star break. I know they kind of stumbled out of the gates after the All-Star break, but I feel like Kyle Korver's been shooting a lot better, and he's finally getting his legs under him from that injury. He obviously didn't have the offseason to go through his normal offseason for him. It was more rehab and stuff for him after surgery. But I think now that he's finally getting his legs back under him, the Hawks are now moving the ball around, making the threes that they made last year, and kind of moving up the ladder in the East. I think so. There's only a half game separating Miami and Atlanta right now. I think Miami gets it, but I think the Hawks are a really dangerous 4 seed.
See, yeah, after watching the Hawks in the playoffs last year, I still am a little bit worried about them, and they won't have DeMar Carroll this year, so
It seems like oh, sorry, keep going, Nick.
No, you can go, John.
I would say I feel like the Hawks just are even since they had like Joe Johnson, they just can't seem to get it together in the playoffs. So I guess that's a good point. They struggled last year in the playoffs, and even when they had Joe Johnson and Josh Smith, the whole franchise, it just seems like they can't move past that wall. They keep hitting it. So I think they have a lot of talent, but I guess time will tell to see if they can push past it.
Their lack of rebounding hurts them. That was an issue last year. Like, if you have a big presence in the paint against them, like you saw in the first round against Brook Lopez, they had a hard time with him. And there's plenty of teams I feel like that maybe aren't as talented as them, but if they have a real presence in the paint and they can be a force inside, it can mess with them.
Yeah, I think it comes down to their shooting. If they can shoot, they'll be fine. But last year in the playoffs, it all kind of fell apart. It's like they lost their legs. I know people overplayed Kyle Korver for the 3 the entire playoffs, and you just have to have other players hit when your top guy's being double covered or overplayed for the 3-pointer like that.
So, in case you guys didn't know, Notre Dame just took a 1-point lead off a tip-in with 1.5 seconds left.
Who are they playing?
Stephen F. Austin. They just won off a tip-in to win the game. Holy cow!
Nice.
March Madness is crazy. Back to the NBA talk.
Well, on to my weekly recap. I was originally going to do Dwight Howard using Stickum during a game, but I just got a notification that Alvin Gentry announced that Anthony Davis won't play the rest of the season.
Yeah, I got the notification too. I was actually had the same thought, like, oh, if I would have gotten this sooner, maybe I would have made it my weekly recap. It says, I mean, the Pelicans didn't really have a realistic shot at the playoffs anyways, but I think it's more of concerned for the future because Anthony Davis has had a lot of injury issues throughout his career. I don't think he's played more than like 60-something games in one season. And that's a problem when you give a guy that much money and you're basically banking on, you're kind of banking on this guy to bring your team out of the gutters. So that I think it's cause for concern for Pelicans fans because, I mean, the guy just has not been healthy. And when you're 24 years old, whatever, this is when you expect him to be the healthiest. And when he's not healthy right now, you can only assume maybe it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, and they got to figure something out. It just feels like he's always getting banged up with these random injuries a lot of the time, or like the most awkward things kind of end up happening to him.
Yeah, I believe there's like a 24 million difference if he doesn't make the All-NBA team.
Oh, yeah.
This year, I heard something along those lines. I think I heard that on Brian Windhorst on Rachel Nichols' The Jump on ESPN. I think he mentioned, it might have been Brian Windhorst. He mentioned that, and I honestly don't think he's a All-NBA performer this year. Like, he's been good when he's in there, but he's not in there a majority of the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, availability is the best ability, in my opinion, and this dude isn't available.
And
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't really have a good start to the season either.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I heard that thing from Brian Windhorst a while ago that if he doesn't make it, he misses. I think it is like 25 million. I mean, that's upsetting. I think him missing the last like 15 games of the season. I think it's. I mean, I think it's unlikely he makes one of the All NBA teams because at power forward, I mean, there's so many good forwards now in the NBA and now on the All NBA teams they don't do centers anymore, right? Don't they do like just 3 forwards or something? Or
no, I think they have centers, but they have 2 forwards. It doesn't have to be a power forward and a small forward.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I feel like he doesn't play centers.
Right now, Durant's going to be there. LeBron's going to be there. Kawhi's going to be there. Paul George is going to be there.
Yeah.
Who else do we have?
Oh, Draymond Green.
Draymond Green will be a forward.
So that's 5, right?
That's 5. So there's 1 spot left.
He might get in on that. I mean, Melo's not going to get on it because the Knicks are so bad. I don't know any other forwards that. Blake Griffin's missed a lot of time.
Yeah.
I can't really think of.
I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge has been pretty good. Like
I was going to say LaMarcus. He's been really good since the All-Star break.
And the Spurs are going to have a crazy record, so he might get the nod.
True.
Oh, so, wow. So, how many games have the Pelicans played? So Davis has played in 61 games this year.
That's surprisingly high.
Yeah, I was surprised. So they've played 25 plus 43 is what, 68? So he's missed 7 games. So he was, I mean, you look at last year, he played 68, started 68 games, started 66 the year before, and 60 his rookie year. So he was, I mean, hopefully going to at least break 70 this year. But him missing these last 14 games does not bode well.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely an issue for them going forward is his health. And I mean, you have to think about the times he's played in these games, but he's left the game halfway through third quarter. Right. He has a random fall. I don't know, something happens and he's out the rest of the game because I can't tell you how many times like I play him in FanDuel and I go and look and then next thing I know, Anthony Davis is out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always some sort of bizarre injury that happens to him.
Yeah. And I mean, the more I look at these rosters, I feel like there's a guy, like I feel like LaMarcus Aldridge could make it now over him, or who else? Maybe Dirk. I mean, there's a lot of good,
like Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap could be up there.
Paul Millsap, yeah, maybe Al Horford. Oh, Al Horford plays a lot of center. He might get in, but it's gonna be really close.
I think this actually though benefits the Pelicans because they'll probably lose a lot of games now and get a higher pick.
Do they have their draft pick this year? I know they traded.
I'm pretty sure they do. I'll double check.
Okay. Yeah, they would definitely need that this year. They need some young players. They need some wings, and there's something in the water in New Orleans. Those guys are just getting hurt left and right.
Yeah, they're a very injury-prone team. I think they've been bit the hardest by the injury bug.
Yeah.
It hasn't stopped the entire season. Like even before the season started, they've been banged up. But I think a real positive for this year though is the way Drew Holiday has come back.
He's been really good since the All-Star break.
Really good. Norris Cole has been a pleasant surprise for them. I
Yeah.
miss him in Miami. I miss the Coltrane in his green van.
How
Return to Miami, my man. Even
how
though there's
long
probably not a spot for you at this point, but
how long is his deal? Is he multi-year or did he just sign a
he's a
1 year
free
deal?
agent this summer.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
he'll be a free agent. I don't know if he returns, but he's been starting for them, and Drew Holiday's been coming off the bench,
yeah.
even though Drew Holiday's probably a better player, more effective on the court. But yeah,
Drew,
I like the
yeah,
reemergence of Drew Holiday. I think they have to move either Tyreek or Drew. You can't play with both of them.
yeah.
I would
And
personally move Tyreek.
yeah, it's tough because Drew's on a one. This is his last year after. So summer of 2017 is a free agent. So it's like, would you rather have Tyreek for 2 years, or would you rather go with Drew Holiday and see, and just hope he stays with you and signs long term next summer? I don't know.
I would take Drew Holiday. I think
Me
Tyreek's
too.
handles are super underrated. He can handle the basketball and he can get to the basket, but he's not a threat unless he has the ball.
Right.
And majority of the times on offense, if I was coaching the Pelicans, I would want the ball to go to Anthony Davis and try to run offense through him. I feel like in a couple of years he'll be able to fully, like, you can just throw it in high post, elbow area, and just run the offense completely through Anthony Davis if you want to do that. I think he'll get there. I don't think he's there yet, but he will definitely get there, and it'll be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think with Drew Holiday too, he's really good defensively, and he's an underrated 3-point shooter.
Right. He can at least knock it down.
Yeah,
Like
he's
Tyreek
37.
Evans will hit like the top of the
Yeah,
backboard on some three-pointers.
yeah. This year he's down to 33, but he's a 37% for his career. So he's not bad at all from three. I mean, Tyreek is, I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but it's probably much worse
Not
than that.
not good. And from what I know, the Pelicans have their first round pick this year, so
All
They
right.
need to get someone who fits well with Drew and Anthony Davis. I think those are the two core pieces that they should move on with. Or move forward with. I think everyone else is kind of like they're here, but I don't know if they're in our long-term future play. I think those two should be in their future though. In
Yeah.
terms of Holiday and Davis.
So they got 20. I mean, God, the Pelicans have a worse record than the Knicks. That's not good.
Oh my God.
They're 25. They're 20. That's the benchmark. If you're worse than the Knicks, you gotta just give up. They're 25-43. The Knicks are 28-42. So right now, the Pelicans are like a borderline top 5 pick.
which
I mean,
could
this
be
draft is not right now. It's not looking like a weak draft, but you never know. Sometimes guys play well in the tournament, and like think if they could get like Buddy Hield in the top 5. That would be really good for their franchise.
Yeah, I would really like Buddy Hield on
Yeah.
New Orleans because he could shoot the ball, man.
Yeah, and they need guys who can shoot. They need guys, go-to scorers on the perimeter besides Drew Holiday. 'Cause, Eric Gordon's missed a lot of time, and
Oh, he's gone. Like I think
he's
he's
gone.
a free
Yeah,
agent
yeah.
this
He
season.
doesn't like New Orleans. Yeah, he's gone. He's
yeah,
gone.
and they said they're probably not going to re-sign Ryan Anderson either.
Yeah. Well, Anderson doesn't make sense with what they're like. It doesn't make sense to have him and Anthony Davis because neither can play small forward, and Davis can only play so many minutes at center, and Anderson can't play center. So it's tough to have those two guys on your roster.
And you
I
wonder
don't know why they just don't play Davis at center. Like I know you put in money for Ashik, and then like you can still have him there. He won't be such a bad contract moving forward. Like you'll be able to move him. I feel like if for someone who needs
a big.
just a big that could play some spot minutes. Like I get it, it's expensive, or his deal is kind of rich for most players, or for most teams, I should say. But I don't feel like it's a bad contract. I feel like it's definitely movable. But I would go towards if they do want to re-sign Anderson, just play Davis at the 5, play Anderson at the 4. You might be lacking on defense because Davis has been bad on defense this year, but
Yeah,
offensively that would be a tough cover. Both guys can shoot threes. Both guys can rebound. Anthony Davis can just slash whenever he wants to against a bigger 5.
Yeah, I don't know why they. I just don't get. I don't understand that. So like before last year or before this year, he had 1 year where he played 82 games, another year where he played 76 games. Then he had his first year. I guess he played a little bit, so he had 66 games 1 year, 48 games another year. So this is like another guy like they re-signed, and doesn't exactly have a clean bill of health. Like I don't know.
Are we talking about Anderson?
No, Omar Ashik. Like I don't know why they
Oh,
re-signed him.
yeah.
Yeah, I just.
He was healthy with Thibodeau. Can you believe that?
Yeah, well, everybody's healthy with Thibodeau. Then he leaves, and it's like everything catches up to you.
So yes, and also we can safely say it wasn't Thibodeau and the Bulls. It wasn't him hurting everybody. It's clearly something with these players or what their
Yeah.
training staff is doing, or I don't even know. I don't know enough to speculate, but it's not Thibodeau with Chicago.
Yeah, I think low key New Orleans, in my opinion, is one of the more poorly run franchises in terms of like the guys they get, and I just feel like they don't really know. I feel like they're not doing
Well,
a good job down there.
I agree with you because of the point, like, there's been reports that leak that they're not going to re-sign Anderson. They're not interested in having Gordon in the future. So you know these guys' contracts are getting up. You had calls for them. Why wouldn't you try
What?
to
Yeah,
get
I don't. Why? I
something
mean,
for them? Anderson was a lot of teams were interested in him.
yeah, it's like Gordon. I understand he was hurt at the time,
No,
but
I
Anderson
think
teams
he was
wanted him.
actually he was healthy, I think, like a little bit before the deadline, and they had offers. I read like an article saying that they could have gotten at least something for him, but they
Yeah,
elected not to trade him, even knowing that they probably weren't going to go with him in the future. It just makes
yeah.
no sense.
I don't get it. Maybe they thought they're going to try and make a push after the All-Star break, but I mean they're
They're
far
pretty
back.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
I
still
don't. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, they're. I mean, right now they're 8 games back in the loss column from the Mavericks for the 8 spot. So I mean, I don't know what they were at the time. When the trade deadline was um going happening, but I mean, I don't think they were much better than this. They're probably
yeah,
worse.
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
agree.
I don't know.
All right, guys, this talk about injuries and bad teams is making me really depressed. We need to lighten up the mood a little bit. Let's talk Spurs Warriors from last night. Nick, I know you're the only one that watched this game through and through. I had other things going on. I had some family members over. One of my younger cousins was playing Vice City on my PS2, which was great. Because when I was his age, when I was in seventh grade, that was my game. I loved it. But John, I know you watched the movie, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I got home. I went to visit some friends in DC Friday night, and I got home Saturday super late. I got home. I think I walked in the door like 9 o'clock last night, and we threw on The Big Short. And I was looking through my phone. I realized that I totally forgot the Golden State game was on. By that time, I'd already started the movie, and I would have felt bad if I was like, Mom and Dad, I can't watch this movie right now. But yeah, it was a great movie. If you haven't seen Big Short, you guys got to see it. It's a good movie. But yeah, I watched the condensed version of the game on League Pass today. So I was trying to see, like, I feel like I didn't get that much from it. But I was really interested in seeing how they guarded Steph. And I know, Nick, you said before the podcast they did some interesting things, and you liked what Popovich did. So enlighten us in what he did.
Well, it was a great game. The Spurs definitely did some stuff to sway my opinion about this series in a 7-game, like this matchup in a 7-game series. Like I said, the Spurs did some crazy stuff to Steph Curry, some stuff that a lot of people wanted them to do. They just forced Steph Curry to get rid of the ball. If they switched on him, their big came out on him all the way in the three-point line. They pressed him. They let him get inside and shoot those 2-point shots, the contested shots in the paint, but they were not letting him shoot threes. He was out of rhythm. I think he shot 1 for 12 for 3 in the game, and he looked frustrated, the most frustrated I've seen him all year. So Popovich definitely had a nice game plan against Steph Curry.
I
And the
caught a
whole
little bit. I caught a little bit at the end, probably majority of the fourth quarter. But I wasn't really analyzing while I was watching. I was just watching with my family, just being a fan. But in your opinion, did it look like Golden State's third, fourth, fifth options were getting looks because they got the ball out of Curry's hands, or was the defense suffocating against them too? Because a lot of the times, like when Cleveland played them in the finals, they would blitz Curry off that pick and roll, and Curry would make that overhead pass to Draymond, then he'd have a 4-on-3. And the first couple of games, they weren't capitalizing on that, which allowed Cleveland to be close. But as soon as the third, fourth, fifth option started making shots, it killed Cleveland. That defense didn't work anymore. So was it the third, fourth, fifth options not making shots and getting open ones and not making them, or was the defense just that suffocating?
Yeah, I think it was like a combination of both. This Warriors definitely missed some open shots, specifically Klay Thompson in the first quarter. I recall him missing a 3 and like a 2-pointer that he usually makes. But the Spurs are really active defensively. Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard were all over the place, getting their hand passing lanes. They didn't necessarily always get a ton of steals and intercept passes, but they're just getting deflections, slowing them down. The Spurs did a great job in the first half of really slowing down the game. I mean, you can see the Warriors only had 37 points in the first half, so like they definitely limit their opportunities, and they just kind of took them out of rhythm. they're really active. You got to give the Spurs a lot of credit for the energy they brought early in the game yesterday.
So I gotta be like this. The Warriors have such a psychological effect on other teams. I feel like, because if I'm the Spurs, it's like, okay, we won this game at home, but you also got to think like Curry and Thompson had bad games. They had no Iguodala, no Bogut, and it's like you held them to
Still
79.
close.
What do you say? What do
They
you
were
say,
still so close.
Yeah, and exactly. I was about, yeah, and it was still, they had 79 points, which is incredible to hold them that many points. But you got to assume that when you play them again, that that's not going to happen. Curry's probably going to have like at least 20, 24 points or something, and Thompson's going to be up there too. So it's like it's just got to be, kind of defeating. Knowing that the game was so close, you would think that if I were to look at this, if I would have looked at just the Golden State box score, I would say, okay, the Spurs must have won this game by 20 points. And it was only I think an 8-point game, but it was really close. It was like, a one possession game for most of the fourth quarter from what I saw.
I think a lot of credit has to go to the Warriors defense. They did a great job. They forced the Spurs to have 17 turnovers. And that's something the Spurs don't really do, turn over the ball a lot. So I think that was a nice key for them. The Spurs also missed some shots themselves, and you mentioned that, and then Bogut and Iggy didn't play. So that's two pieces for the Warriors.
Right. Anyway, Duncan only played 8 minutes. So, I mean, you got to assume that if Bogut's going to start, that they'll probably start Duncan.
And Duncan, I don't think is 100% yet.
Yeah, I think at this point they're just saving Duncan for, for the postseason, which is smart. But because you kind of forget how integral he is to their success. Like when he was missing those games, I think like 2 months ago, or maybe it was a month ago. But they struggled. I think they lost like 2 in a row or lost 2 in 1 week, something like that. I think that might have been the week that either they played Golden State or something, but I think they lost to Houston and lost to someone else that week.
But Duncan being out, I feel like, is like they've mentioned, has really helped Aldridge get comfortable, and he was a huge part of the game. I think he had 26 points, and he had a presence, in the paint. Draymond Green had struggled defending him just because he was so much bigger. So I think that's an interesting matchup because Aldridge can. Go ahead,
Aldridge
John.
looked comfortable on the perimeter too, guarding Steph. And when I saw, he looked like they were switching a lot, and he looked comfortable on the perimeter. If he can, I mean, that's important. I think if you can have a big be somewhat comfortable guarding Steph, like what we saw in the finals last year with Tristan Thompson.
I think the Spurs bigs were impressive yesterday on the perimeter with Steph Curry. I think it also helped them in the fact that it was okay if Curry got past them, long as they didn't let him shoot that three. You know what I mean? So they just kept coming at him, and Curry wanted to shoot the three so bad at times almost that he didn't go past them right away and just kind of wasted a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's weird that it's almost like you want to give Curry the open lane for 2 instead of letting him shoot a 3. It's just
that's really what I feel like Popovich told his team.
Yeah, and he's so efficient. You kind of have to.
You can, as long as you can get him contested at the 2-point shot, or if he's shooting a long 2, let him shoot the long 2 instead of the 3. And I don't know if this was something they did the whole game. I remember seeing this in the fourth quarter. There was a play where usually a defender would rotate on the weak side to help a guy driving the lane, but Kawhi Leonard didn't rotate. He decided to stay with Steph Curry, towards that side more, just so he wouldn't get the 3. And they had an easier 2-point attempt, but Curry didn't get the open 3 to put the Warriors over the top and give them that extra momentum.
Was it on that specific play? Do you remember if it was strong side help that Kawhi didn't give?
No, it was weak side help. He was going to come over.
Okay.
They were driving on the strong side, and Kawhi was on the weak side with Curry in the corner. And I would think Kawhi would usually rotate in, but he just decided to stay on that side.
Interesting. Yeah, you might as well stay with Steph. You don't want his confidence to rise even a little bit, because if he sees one go down, he's gonna take that heat check, and if he sees that one go down too, it's kind of game over.
Yeah, it's tough. But I think the Spurs did a great job of just really annoying Steph Curry. He was frustrated. He had a hard time. He did not enjoy playing basketball yesterday. And you could even see he was just out of rhythm because at the end of the game, he had an open look at a 3 when they had already lost, and he didn't even hit it. And it was a 3 that, he's hitting 9 out of 10 times.
It's crazy because Steph takes really difficult shots. Normally for anyone else, some of the shots he takes are terrible looks. Falling away, off the dribble, turning in the air. You wouldn't recommend anyone taking those shots. So while I'm not shocked that he missed those, they're difficult shots to begin with. So I'm not surprised that when he's off, he doesn't shoot well at all, because the shots he usually takes are tough.
Right, but it's also you also have that thought all right, he makes these shots all the time. So yeah, he's missing
Right,
them.
yeah.
Not really surprised, but it's also he could also make any of these, at
Correct.
at
True.
any given
It's like it
point.
goes
So
both ways. It
yeah,
definitely goes both ways.
he's got to be. I couldn't imagine having to like game plan for him because it's so frustrating. I mean, they're literally near impossible to game plan for because they have no real weaknesses, and I mean they're just such a well-run team, and it's going to be tough for anybody to beat them. I think they're still the favorite. I don't think this San Antonio victory changes anything, but it does give people who want to see maybe San Antonio win, it probably gives them some optimism.
Yeah,
One thing,
I
one
feel
thing I
more.
want to mention before Nick goes on is we got to give a shout out to Tony Parker because he played. I know he was on Curry for a decent amount of possessions in the fourth when I was watching, and he did a good job. Didn't let him get a shot off. Made Steph give the ball up. Stayed with him. And we don't think of Tony Parker as a defensive force, and he's definitely not a defensive force. But he came and did his job yesterday.
And he had some nice moments offensively in the game too. But I think as Spurs as a unit, like as a whole team, they had one mission. They were just gonna hound Steph Curry. Anybody who was on him, they were coming at him to attack him. And Tony Parker did that as well.
Yeah, and I think the Spurs team too is they're deep at every position. They have good. They like Parker. You can have him play really hard for 28 minutes because then you can have Patty Mills come in and play 20 minutes, and they have Ginobili. Ginobili. People forget too. He was playing really well. Then he had the testicular injury, and now he only played 18 minutes a game last night. You got to assume he's going to play more than that in a big game.
And he hit a few big threes too.
Yeah, I mean like. They're deep. Kyle Anderson's played pretty well. Duncan barely played. They have Kevin Martin, who they haven't really used much. So they're deep at every position. And I almost think they might be deeper than Golden State because Golden State, their bench is all right. But aside from Iggy, I mean, I feel like their production comes mostly from those first three guys.
I like Livingston. I thought he had a nice game.
Livingston.
Oh, true, Livingston. Yeah, I did forget about Livingston. Yeah, but I mean, Barbosa plays, but he'll hit the occasional three. Varejao does a little bit, but I don't think they rely on their bench like San Antonio does.
The thing with Golden State's bench though is that they're explosive.
Yeah.
So, like, you could get a 15-20 point game from Barbosa. You could get that from Livingston. You could get that from Iguodala. You could get that from Spates. So it's like even if all you need is one, all you need is one of those guys, and they could all do that on any given night, which makes the Warriors so tough to guard because you know what you're getting from the starters for the most part.
Yeah.
And you have those guys come in and at any given game during any given game, any one of those 4 or 5 could go for 15 to 20 points.
Yeah. Yeah. Space hasn't been as good this year. He was really good last year. He was up for Sixth Man of the Year award in some people's eyes. But yeah, he can put in some points too. But I think for overall, I think I would take San Antonio's bench.
The one thing they have nice in this matchup, and the Warriors exposed it a little bit last night, is the point guards on the Spurs are a little bit small. So when they bring out Sean Livingston and he has that matchup against a Tony Parker or a Mills, and he's 6'7", he's working in the post and he's hitting that shot every time. And he's having no problem defending them defensively. And I thought that gave him some issues, especially when they played Livingston with Clay, because they couldn't hide the smaller guards. And the Spurs like to go 2-point guard sometimes. So,
all right, so we know the Warriors are the first seed and the Spurs are the second seed in the West, and they're most likely going to meet up in the Western Conference Finals. But in the essence of March Madness, I want to look at some of the matchups if the playoffs started today, and I want you guys to pick some possible upsets that you think that could happen. So in the Eastern Conference right now, we have Cleveland at 1, Chicago at 8, so they'll match up. Toronto versus Indiana, Atlanta versus Charlotte, and Miami versus Boston in the 4-5 matchup. Any of those lower seeds, you think they could take out the higher seed in the first round?
Well, something that I think would be really interesting is if Chicago doesn't get in and Detroit takes their spot. I think Detroit against Cleveland would be a really interesting matchup. I like Detroit's versatility on defense, and I think Drummond down low. Like I think, he has that knack on him for maybe not playing hard all the time. I think in the postseason, people's true colors come out. So I think that would be an interesting matchup. But I think if it stays the way it is, I think Cleveland would crush Chicago. I don't think Chicago really. I mean, Butler's good. and Powell's good, but they have a lot of injuries still. I mean, Indiana's been better since they got Turner, but I think Charlotte over Atlanta could be a sneaky upset. And I think, we said before, I know Nick and we were saying before the podcast that we don't really consider 4 and 5 an upset because usually they're so even. But I think Charlotte over Atlanta is the one that I really think could be the upset.
And I agree with John on that fact. They don't have a lot of confidence in the Hawks. Their playoff experience last year against the Nets and further on. And the Hawks have had some bad losses. They had back-to-back losses to the Knicks this year and back-to-back losses to the Magic. And they have 2 losses to the T-Wolves. So, they can lose games to bad teams, and they don't make adjustments after one night. So I think that could be an issue. And like we saw last year, all things can just fall apart if they're not hitting their shots, and they can struggle with a big presence inside defensively.
And the Hawks are always bad in the postseason too. It seems like ever since Joe Johnson and Josh Smith were, they've been bad in the postseason. So I don't really trust them that much in the playoffs.
I personally, unless there are injuries, I see all the top 4 moving on. I think Boston versus Atlanta would be interesting if that happens. I know Charlotte's gotten the better of Miami a couple times this year. Will it happen in the playoffs? I don't know, but I think a Boston-Atlanta first-round series would be really interesting.
Yeah, that's a pretty evenly matched series right there, too. I think that'd be a great series. I could see Boston beating them, too.
Yeah, both teams like to play small, too. I think that would be a really good series because both teams have similar styles. There'd be a lot of 3-pointers in that game, too.
All right, so nothing major in the East. Let's move to the West. We have Golden State against Dallas, San Antonio against Houston, Oklahoma City against Portland, and the LA Clippers against the Memphis Grizzlies. And the higher seeds are obviously Golden State, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and the Clippers. Any upsets in this side of the bracket?
I think it's really tough. I don't see any way an upset can happen in the West. I could literally probably even see 3 upsets possibly in the East, but none in the West really. I just think there's no chance the Mavs beat the Warriors. The Spurs aren't losing to the Rockets. OKC's not losing to Portland, and the Clippers will get past Memphis just because they have so many injuries.
Yeah, and the top 4 in the West are so good. I mean, unlike the East, it's the top 2 are really good. And then the next 2, and I guess if you want to include the whole playoff picture, the next 6 aren't that great, but the West, the top 4 are great. Especially the first 2 are all-time great teams. And Oklahoma City's having a really good year, even though they're kind of in Golden State and San Antonio's shadow, and they have all that drama going on with, I guess, Katie's future contract situation, and they're still having issues late in games. But I think they're still the top 4 are so good.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it's all chalk in the first round.
And
One series that I would like to see again, though, is Houston against the LA Clippers.
I like that too.
I think with Memphis being the way they are right now in terms of their injuries, the Blazers always being up and down, they're really fun to watch, and they probably will end up making the playoffs. But this team could go on a 2-3 game losing streak, while the Rockets, who have James Harden, could go on a 4 or 5 game winning streak. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
and
I think 5 through 7 in the West. I know they're separated right now. The Grizzlies are 40 and 30, and the Rockets are 35 and 35. But with the way the injury bug has bitten the Grizzlies, I think those 2 could easily flip-flop, and you could have LAC versus Houston in the first round. I think that would be really fun, aside from the fact that there's probably going to be a ton of Hacka Dwight, Hacka DeAndre.
But if it stays the way it is, Houston plays San Antonio surprisingly really well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that series goes to 6 games, especially because they have James Harden, and if he's doing James Harden things, I mean he's when he's going, he's the best scorer on the planet, and I don't think they'll upset San Antonio, but if James Harden's going, I wouldn't be surprised if that series went 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I think it'd be more fun than people would think.
Agreed. James Harden definitely could take over a game himself. It's funny we're talking about this, and I feel like last year almost any series could have went either way in the West. There was even talk maybe if OKC got the 8 seed last year and they played the Warriors, they could win a game or 2. Now this year it feels like there's hardly any upsets. possibility.
Yeah, we talked about it last year, but I mean, you never know, man. People get hurt.
Yeah, crazy
As
things have
as we've
happened.
seen, people get hurt. Some people just take their game to the next level. Some people are schemed out. It just a lot of things happen in the playoffs. It's just a different beast.
Yeah, I really want to see Portland drop down to 8 and play Golden State. I think Damian Lillard and Steph would be such an awesome matchup. Especially because Dame keeps getting, I love that he's so honest about all the time, and people and reporters are like, basically putting him in Steph's shadow, and he's like, I'm not, he's just trying to be his own guy, and people don't recognize that he's also a great scorer and one of the best point guards, and I think that would be an awesome matchup, seeing them play, at least 4 games against each other in high intensity playoff basketball.
And he's the type of guy that's going to raise his level of play to some different type of level when he's playing the Warriors, in the first round. And like you said, against Steph Curry, he's definitely got that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, and it could happen. They're only 1 game ahead of Dallas in the loss column, so they could totally drop. Memphis is 5 games ahead of Dallas in the loss column, so I don't know if Memphis is going to drop. I mean, surprisingly, they're still playing pretty well, so I don't know what their schedule is looking like for the rest of the year, but I don't know if they're going to drop out because they've built themselves a nice lead, but I still want to see Utah get in the playoffs. I think ideally I'd like to see Memphis get out and get Utah in there, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it'd take a lot for Utah to get out. They have a pretty solid record. Dave Yeager's done a really good job.
Yeah. Oh, you mean it would take a lot for Memphis to get out?
Right.
Yeah. Utah's only a game behind Dallas in the loss column, so they're right there.
Dallas has been slipping.
Yeah. They have. He's old. I mean, Rick Carlisle is an amazing coach, but they don't have enough talent.
Yeah, it was eventually going to catch up to them. It felt like they had so many guys overperforming early in the year. So
it's weird that now that Parsons is coming into his own again, that they're worse. You know what I'm saying? That's bizarre.
Yeah, he's starting to play well. Pretty much since the All-Star break, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, he's been playing better and better, and Dallas's record has been getting worse and worse. So trade Parsons. Cut him. Cut him.
I think he's a free agent this year.
Yeah, he has a player option. I think he's going to opt out.
No, he's totally opting out.
Yeah, they said
there's too much money that's going to be thrown around for you not to opt out if you have a player option.
Yeah, I read some Orlando's high up there. I think there's a possibility might go back to Houston, which I don't think is true because
he was linked to a couple of teams.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like you read these reports saying like, oh, Parsons is like highly interested in going to Orlando, but then you read the report and it says nothing about him really being interested. It's just that when he grew up in Florida and drew a picture of himself wearing an Orlando Magic jersey. It's like,
oh my God!
It's like what these people write for clicks is just
clickbait,
ridiculous.
Man. Clickbait is what it is.
Third, but it's like, yeah. Like, oh my God! But yes, I don't know. I think he's out, and it's sad because I want to see Dirk end his career on a high note, but it seems like they just don't have enough talent to get anything legitimate going.
Yeah, it'll be tough for them to really make any noise.
Yeah.
Maybe Dwight goes to Dallas.
I don't know.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't know where else he would go.
He said he wants to go to New York. I heard.
He's not. If the Knicks sign Dwight Howard, oh my God, that's another thing. There's some things that I have in my head right now where if this happens, I'm officially not a Knicks fan anymore, and that's one of them. Is signing Dwight Howard. Signing Dwight Howard and having Phil coach half the games would make me no longer a Knicks fan.
The Knicks are the best, dude. Oh my God.
So dramatic. I thought this year was a turning point, and I feel like Phil is just making it more dramatic. Like, God, it's just like do the obvious thing and sign Tom Thibodeau. Like, why is he not doing that?
Yeah, I know.
Thibodeau doesn't want to run the triangle. That's why.
God, just stop. They need to stop with the triangle, man. I mean, it worked with Michael. It worked with Kobe. It worked with Shaq. All those guys, but this is the New York Knicks. You have Carmelo, who's a great scorer, but you don't have all-time great players on your team.
So what I heard about the triangle is that I don't know the triangle that well. I've played in it maybe like for 5 or 10 minutes, but it's really good, or it worked really well. Obviously because Phil had Kobe and Shaq and Jordan and Pippen, but there was also no zone. I believe there was no zone defense back then, so you could just run it better. But now with Thibodeau's pack line defense, or No, I don't want to say pack line. The strong side, loading up the strong side a little bit, that kind of defense, it kind of negates some of the triangle's effects in terms of being able to get to the basket. Obviously, if you have skilled players, anything will work as long as you play to their strengths. But I feel like the triangle is like a forced system with New York, and I think Phil needs to get over it.
Yeah, well, like I mean, I read Phil Jackson's book, and he talks about the triangle, and I think like it makes sense. You know, I forget the exact like system details in terms of like where someone go, like there's someone in the high post, and there's always or something like that. But basically, the premise of it is like you kind of there's no real set plays.
Right, you read and react.
It's just kind of like based off reaction. So it's kind of based off having a lot of chemistry out with your team. And you have to have a lot of high IQ basketball players because you're based off, you're not having a coach run a play for you. It's just you read the defense and then you react, and you have to have a lot of guys on the same page. So, like, in theory, yeah, it could be the best offense ever. But you have to have Phil Jackson coach it, I think, and you have to have the right players. And the Knicks don't have either.
Yeah, exactly. You need to have the right pieces to run it. And I feel like the Knicks at this point don't have them, and they're not capable of getting them fast enough that they could implement it and have somebody that'll implement the triangle how Phil wants it to be run.
Right, and you gotta have a teacher, and Phil Jackson is a great teacher and motivator, and all that, and he's great at relating to people. And not having that, I think that's why the triangle's failed. Since he stopped coaching Lakers, they've had a lot of coaches try. I think Jim Clemens tried it with someone, then Rambish tried it with the Timberwolves, and it just hasn't worked. And you got to have the right guy teaching it, because So Knicks are a mess. Nothing's changed.
How did we get to the Knicks? We were talking about playoff teams, and we ended up with the New York Knicks.
I don't know. How did we end up with them? I don't even remember anymore.
No, man. The Knicks. I wish the Knicks were good, man. I really do, but goddamn, they're so awful.
Oh, we talked about Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
going to New York. Going to the Knicks.
Freaking Dwight Howard with a stickum. All right. Anyway, let's move on to games of the week. No article this week. Once again, I know most people will be watching the NCAA tournament, even though college basketball is really, really difficult to watch. Let me just throw that out there. I'm not a big fan. The officiating sucks. It's horrendous. But John, you are entering this week at 51-37. Nick, you're entering the week at 42-47. First game, I only have 3 games this week. First game, Wednesday, 7:30, League Pass, Raptors at the Celtics.
This is a good division matchup right here. I'm going to go with the Raptors.
I'm going to go with Boston, because Boston's good at home. But I think they've lost a couple at home in the last couple of weeks. But I think I like Boston. I think they can they're a good team when they're good at home, so I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, Boston's a little banged up. That's probably why they've been losing.
Yeah, if Crowder, do you know how long Crowder's out for? Is he out for a while?
Couple weeks. Yeah, I think he has a high ankle sprain, I believe.
Okay, not having Crowder guard DeRozan is that could hurt, because he plays so many minutes and they'd have to rely on Evan Turner, I guess. But
Crowder brings a lot of energy.
Yeah, and he can stretch the floor. I mean, he's a good player.
Steal of the Rondo trade, Jay Crowder.
Yeah, I know. He was playing well with Dallas, and I don't know what Dallas was thinking with that move.
And then they traded Brandon Wright to Boston, and they flipped him for a first-round pick, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was. I mean, at the time, it was like, wow, that was it's a gutsy move. They were really going for. They thought they had a championship chance, but that was.
It didn't work out that way.
They did not pay off, but I'm gonna go with Boston though in this matchup.
All right, same night, Wednesday, 10:30 on ESPN. Clippers at Warriors.
I'm going to
go ahead, Nick.
I'm going with the Warriors. The Clippers aren't going to have Blake Griffin yet, so I don't think it'll be enough. And the Warriors will probably be pretty pissed off after losing yesterday. Yeah,
it's hard to believe the Clippers would lose, because they haven't beaten the Warriors yet, so it's hard to believe that they would lose. Because I think would this be the 4th game against or would this be the 3rd that they've played?
I think it's the 4th. The first 2 were really close. I think the 3rd one they just got smacked. And I think this is the last one.
Well, the 3rd one I think was the one at Los Angeles, where it was kind of like it was like an 8-point game, 6-point game. Then Golden State started to blow it open, and then it randomly got to like a 2-point game. And I think the Clippers only lost by 3. I think that was the 3rd one at the Clippers. So I think it's hard to believe that the Clippers aren't going to win one out of this season series. But I'm going to go with Golden State though.
And then final game, Saturday, 8 o'clock, NBA TV, Spurs at Thunder.
Boy, this is a good one.
The season series, I believe, is 1-1.
I'm gonna go with OKC. I'm not sure why. I just feel like OKC is gonna win.
I'm gonna go with the Spurs. OKC does seem to have the Spurs number though. I know they beat them in that like a playoff matchup. I think it was the year that the Thunder went to the finals.
Right,
Or
and then
maybe-
the Spurs,
yeah,
I believe, got them back in either 2013 or 2014
Yeah,
when Ibaka was hurt. He was
Yep,
hurt the
the
first
Ibaka.
couple of games, came back, and then San Antonio got them anyway. So, yeah, this looks like I think Clips Dubs is possibly a second round matchup, and so is Spurs Thunder.
Yeah,
So you get a quick playoff preview this week.
and we probably got a Western Conference Finals preview yesterday, so a lot of playoff previews.
Yeah, this is a good week. And Wednesday is great because they're two NBA games on. You don't have college basketball taking over, so that's great.
Yeah.
Saturday, I think, is totally worth watching over college. These two teams are really good. So
yeah. I think I don't know if Syracuse is on Saturday. I might have to watch Syracuse, but
Syracuse has to make it past today.
make it past today and make it past Thursday or Friday.
True that.
I don't know. I think we have a good shot of beating this. I didn't watch the game, the Michigan State game, but apparently my brother said Middle Tennessee looks good.
Middle
But, yeah.
Tennessee State dominated. I think
Yeah.
it's Middle Tennessee State, but they just through and through dominated Michigan.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't watch, but I don't know. When Syracuse is zone, the thing is the reason why Syracuse does so well in the
It's
tournament
that zone.
is the zone, and it's like in the ACC it's different because these guys play each other every year, and like the coaches in the ACC are so good. But in March Madness, the coaches all these coaches are good, but they're not as good as the ACC coaches, and the talent isn't as good, and you're not used to seeing this zone.
You can't prepare for that length.
You can't. Yeah, once you're playing against it, it's just a whole different story. I mean, the guys, everybody on Ben J plays at the top, and he's like 6'7". Cooney's 6'4", and all the guys playing at the back are like 6'4", 6'5", 6'8". I mean, they're long for a college team.
There's a dude named Cooney.
Yeah, Trevor Cooney.
Oh my God, what a last name.
Yeah, he's a little white boy that can stroke, but he strokes against all the bad teams and like the games that don't mean anything. But again, in big games, he can't make anything.
Yikes.
That's not what you want.
That's not what you want at all. Yeah, you'd like the opposite. But
All right, that wraps it up for today. Great show, guys, and thank you for listening.
all right,
Thanks.
guys.
We'll see you next week.